All right, in this video, I want to talk about two big things when it comes to learning how to find fish. Because to me, simply learning how to find fish is the single most important thing that you can do as an angler, is learning how to find them. Because what I found more times than not is that when you get around fish, they will bite a number of different baits. It's not always a specific lure that they want, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But a lot of times it's simply getting around the fish. I mean, you can be the best of the best when it comes to a certain technique, but if you're not around them, you're not going to catch them. So in this video, we're going to talk about two big things when it comes to locating fish. Now, as you guys know, I'm not in my typical spot here that I do. I just got a big batch of sun shirts in, and I'm trying to get some things done before the 4th of July, which is tomorrow. And also, I'm going to be running a sale over on the website for the next 5 days as well. So right now, everything on the website is 15% off. Sun shirts, hats, shorts, everything is 15% off. So no coupon code necessary. It's already marked down. So if you guys would like to pick up some gear, right now is a great time. I will leave links down below. Shopping at Fin Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's talk about the first thing when it comes to finding fish that I think is something that not a lot of guys always talk about, but it's something that especially during the summer months becomes super important. But even besides the summer, it's very important, which is don't spread yourself too thin. This is something that I feel like I learn the hard way almost every single year, is don't spread yourself too thin when you're out there. And what I really mean by that is don't try to do too many things when you're trying to find fish. Because a lot of times when it comes to finding fish, things take time to develop. Things take time to understand. If you're bouncing around between a lot of different ways of catching them, you will not fully understand how you can catch them. And let me give you a perfect example of this. You know, I pay attention to tournament bass fishing, and one of my favorite anglers to watch is John Cox. I'm sure that a lot of you guys like John Cox as well. John Cox is a shallow water angler. Like, he is by nature a shallow water guy. And he doesn't, when he goes to a tournament, and these are high level, the highest level you can in bass fishing tournaments, when he goes to a tournament, he does not give a rip about fishing offshore. Even when you go to lakes that are supposed to be won offshore, he doesn't care. Like, if you go to the Kentucky lakes of the world, anything on the Tennessee River really, he doesn't care about all that offshore schools that are out there. He is going to fish his strength. He's going to fish shallow. And you know, a number of years ago, he was fishing in the FLW Cup, which is one of the biggest tournaments that there was. And he went to Lake Wheeler, a Tennessee River lake, a lake that you are supposed to win deep on during a certain time of the year. And guess what he did? He went shallow. And it took him probably 2 or 3 days, but he ended up finding a few shallow water areas where he had a lot of big fish in the shallows. But that takes time to find out. Sure, sometimes you can literally just stumble upon it. But a lot of times if you're trying to go out there and find something, it takes some time to develop and fully understand. And once you understand it, it's helpful to make you find a lot more really quick. And so anyways, he ended up finding a big group of shallow water fish, won that FLW Cup, and wins $500,000 or something like that, 300,000 or 500. I don't remember what it was. But that is a big thing when it comes to bass fishing. Do not spread yourself too thin. And in the month of July, August, September, I know that this is something that I have run into a lot over my fishing, because I like to do a lot of different things. Like, I like to fish shallow. I like to fish grass. I love to fish offshore cover. I love to fish stumps. I like to fish suspended fish. I like to catch a fish no matter how a fish can be caught. That's a great thing, but it's also a bad thing because sometimes it makes me spread myself too thin. And I know that there have been some tournaments throughout the year that I fished, and this doesn't just apply to tournament anglers, this applies to everyone. But I have spread myself too thin in a practice period before a tournament or even during the tournament, trying to do too many different things, and I never fully get on what I need to get on. You know, like if I had just stuck to shallow water in one tournament, I'd been good. If I had just stuck to deep water, I had been good. You know, and a couple of my best tournament fishes in Bassmaster Opens ever actually came from a couple of tournaments where I decided that I was going to do one thing and one thing only. And that big separation was a lot of times between shallow and deep. I remember going to fish Lake Norman. We fished it in May. And there's a lot of fish that can be found offshore in May on Lake Norman because it's a huge spotted bass fishery. But when I got there, I just felt like fishing shallow. Like I just wanted to fish shallow. This is well before forward-facing sonar, so maybe that would have changed. But the thing is I just wanted to fish shallow. And I decided over the 3-day practice period that I had, I'm going to fish shallow and I'm going to stay shallow. I am not going to worry about deep water fish. And I found a few good stretches, and those stretches led me to a 13th place finish out of 200 some guys. You know, another tournament was, a few tournaments, actually I tend to do this more, is actually fish offshore. Like I probably prefer offshore fishing. And there was a couple tournaments, Lake Chickamauga in Tennessee, Lake Oneida, a couple of different times actually, but Lake Oneida, the second time I went there, I said, I am not gonna worry about shallow water fish. I am only gonna stick deep. And I took my time to graph, to do everything I could to find fish that were in deep water, and that led to a 10th place finish, a 4th place finish in a Bassmaster Open event, you know, and so when it comes to bass fishing and it comes to finding fish, don't spread yourself too thin. It can really hurt you because, again, a lot of times it's not necessarily about being like this crazy good angler. It's just about putting time doing something. You know what I mean? Like that's something that I think is so important, and yet you don't really hear a ton of people talk about it. The next thing that I want to talk about is really once you find fish, what you can do. You know, and this is something that I have really done a lot more over the years, is that when I do get around some fish, you will never see me in my boat with probably less than about 12 rods on the front deck. And sometimes it is a lot more than that. And, you know, I fish a tournament series here locally, and we switch between my boat and my partner's boat a lot. And every time I show up with him, it's the same way. Like I'll have so many rods with me. And the thing about it is that I've really learned with the introduction of forward-facing sonar, but this doesn't have to do with forward-facing sonar, is that a lot of fish that you fish for simply are going to react to baits a little bit differently. So if you get around a big group of fish, sometimes you can go through that area with something pretty fast and catch a handful of those fish. Those fish are the aggressive fish. And a lot of times this is actually a hereditary thing within bass itself, is that some bass are a little bit more aggressive by nature. And so sometimes you can roll through an area with the chatterbait and bam, 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 you catch 5 in that area. But what you may not know is that there's 100 fish in that area. You just went through the one time, caught those 5, and thought that that's what you had. The next pass, though, you don't want to throw a chatterbait. You might want to throw something that's completely different because you want to try to catch the fish that weren't responding to your chatterbait. So sometimes switching over to maybe like a soft plastic of some sort, a big worm, a drop shot, a jig, whatever it may be. You go through that area and you catch maybe another 5 or 6 bass now on something slow. And then what you can do is you can slow down even more and fish something super finessey. I already kind of mentioned a drop shot, but you can fish a drop shot, a Nico rig, a Ned rig. You can get the fish that are like, I don't want to bite anything, but if this thing lands on my nose and it's a little French fry, I'm going to pick it up. And then maybe you catch another 5 or 6 fish. And then what you can do is throw a giant bait at them. You can throw this great big bait and you can catch the fish that are they just have to bite this thing because they don't know what it is, or they just are only enticed by it. And so maybe you catch another 2 or 3 fish on that. So you have gone through an area now that you don't know had 100 fish. If you had just locked that chatterbait in your hand, you may have only caught 5 fish in there, made another pass, maybe caught 1 or maybe caught none and left. But now you're able to catch 15, 18, 20 bass, maybe 4 or 5 times as many fish, because you know that bass respond to different lures. And they're also going to respond to different lures at different times. Like, to make this another factor on top of that, you know, you may go through in the morning and they're responding to certain lures one way, and then you go through in the afternoon when that sun is in a different angle and those fish are set up a little bit different, and they respond to them different again. So what I have found is I don't really worry about kind of messing around with a bunch of different baits until I know that I'm around them. Because if you find a good group of fish, most of the time they are so competitive with each other that they will bite anything. You can put hooks on your shoe and throw it out there, and if you're around a good group of fish, one of them is going to bite it. And that one bite can tell you, all right, maybe there's more fish around here. I can start kind of experimenting a little bit with lures and figure out either what the fish really like, or you're just catching those certain groups of fish. The fish that are aggressive, fish that like bottom baits, fish that are finessey, the big bait eaters. You can figure all that stuff out. So when it comes to finding fish, those are 2 big things that I think are really important, and a couple of things I wanted to share with you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to check out that fin fishing gear. It is on sale, and I will see you guys tomorrow, more than likely tomorrow. If not, happy 4th.